Ang GM po ng Kasibo Farmers Development Cooperative, si Ma'am Joanne Micua. Andito rin po ang early bird ng batch 7, si Sir Rick Murillo, na taga Mambahaw MPC. Si Ma'am Maria Judisa D. Ayaw ng Maragusan Growers MPC. Ang isa sa mga first-timer natin na taga Mindoro Progressive MPC, si Ma'am Rebecca Joy M. Aquino. Hello po, Ma'am. Siyempre, hindi papahuli ang mga taga Perpetual Health MPC, Tacloban, si Sir Rocky Asilo and Sir Jimmy Nueva. First time din po niya si Ma'am Nina Christine Reyes Katakutan ng PLEX Community Credit Cooperative. Hello po. Ang taga Santa Ana MPC po na si Ma'am Emily Ann Kabilaw Mahinay. Yon. Siyempre po si Ma'am Nia Campos, isa sa mga regular student natin from Santa Cecilia MPC. At ito, mga nagwagwapuhang mga taga-Tabuk MPC, si Sir Junmel Marcos, si Sir Renato Berlan Jr., si Sir Mario Liquigan, at si Sir Arnold Tayawan. Hello din po kay Ma'am Kitayo Elizabeth Adeban ng Tadyan MPC. Si Ma'am Ethel Angela J. Dison ng Texin MPC. At syempre po, si Sir Paul Longkop ng NATCO Consultancy. So, kumpleto naman po, no? Natawag ko naman po lahat. Yon. So, of course po, bago po tayo dumako sa ating main discussion, i-remind ko lang po ulit ang ating webinar house rules. Yon. So, number 1, kindly mute your mic while the webinar or training is ongoing para po makabawas sa bandwidth ng ating internet. At habang nagsasalita po yung ating speaker, syempre po, para hindi po tayo malaglag, lalo na po kung tayo naka-data lang. And then number 2, show intent to speak in the chat box. So, kung meron po tayong mga tanong mamaya sa ating speaker or kung meron po tayong mga insights, you can use the chat box na nasa gilid po ng ating window. Ito po ang ating one way of communication. And then number 3, you can unmute your mic and enabling your video before speaking. So, pag tinanong po tayo ni speaker mamaya, pwede nyo pong i-unmute yung mic nyo. Pwede rin po ninyong i-open ang videos nyo para po nakikita po tayo ng speaker natin habang tayo po ay nagsasalita. Meron din po tayong attendance na sinisend na po ni Sir William sa chat box natin. Kindly sign na lang po. And then yung, syempre po yung evaluation natin ay ipapadala po namin bukas. We will allotted at least 5 minutes po para sa evaluation. Kung hindi nyo naman po masasagutan, papadala po namin sa email nyo. And then yung certificate of completion po ay ipapadala sa registered email nyo. Yun. So kung meron po kayong mga katanungan, ang aming pong team ay laging nandyan na pinangungunahan po ni Ma'am Daisybel Cabal, ang aming head sa ETCG, si Ma'am Mary Rose Elgob, ang aming unit head sa KRC, si Sir William Carino, ang aming admin specialist, si Miss Claudette Batalier, ang aming research associate, and yours truly po, yung program officer. You can follow also our aming FB page, NATCO Network Knowledge Resource Center. Ayun. So, para po umpisa ng ating discussion sa mga first-timer po at sa mga hindi pa po nakakakilala sa kanya, let me introduce to you our unit head at ang kanyang mga accomplishment. Rose, as she prefers to be called, started her career in HR as recruitment assistant for a Japanese-owned IT company, the Chukiden Software Philippines or TSPI. When she left TSPI, she was already an HR officer. She transferred to a World Bank-funded project, LAMP2, as Training Specialist 3, where she gained expertise in trainings and introductory knowledge on organizational development. So after the project, she was then exposed to varied industries, including BPO, manufacturing, engineering, distribution, and IT development. Prior to NATCO, she was then the HR and admin manager of ISO Certified Manpower Resource Company, the Servicio Filipino Incorporated. She was also an active member of People's Management Association of the Philippines or PMAP and HR Philippines. She was a consistent president and dean's list and top college scholar at PUP, finishing bachelor's in industrial psychology. Her accomplishment was being able to publish through NATCO Network her job analysis and job evaluation handbook, Also, she has completed an online course on global human capital trends with Columbia University School of Professional Studies, completed training of trainers with ACU. She finishes her master's in entrepreneurship, social enterprise development, or MESEDEV, for nation building at Ateneo Graduate School of Business. A certified cooperative manager, a certified master social entrepreneur, an SDA certified psychometric analyst, an HR and OD advisor, and KRC's unit head. Let us all welcome Ma'am Mary Rose Elgo. Good morning, ma'am.
Hello, good morning. Ayan, pumasok na si Miss Rebecca. Mukhang nalalaglag yung ibang participants natin. So, we are expecting po today 25 participants ba, Raquel?
26, ma'am. Nakahabol po si Joy.
Okay, so we're expecting 26 participants by looking at our attendance right now. Merong sigurong nag-share ng kanilang terminals in listening to our webinar. So I hope we're complete today. Our topic is on Module 9. It's already in organizational diagnosis, design, and development. Okay, so I'm more comfortable with this topic kasi ito talaga yung aking hinahandle ever since I started working. I started sa recruitment, then worked my way up as an HR corporate manager, and I was a member of the board of directors, and I ran a company before as a managing consultant of Sophia Training and Consultancy. Then I transferred it to my partner, so ito talaga yung aking comfort zone. And I hope I'll be able to share with you kung ano yung nag-gain ko for more than 20 years of my working experience as HR and OD practitioner. So let me share with you my PowerPoint presentation. Can you hear me clearly? Maliwanag ba yung aking audio even if my voice is a little bit low? Naririnig kaya ng maayos?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so thank you, Ma'am Teresa. Salamat po. Okay, so I'm going to share with you my PowerPoint presentation. So we're waiting for it to load. For the others, naka-load na siguro. Yan. If you cannot see the PowerPoint presentation, you can go to the list of participants, tapos pin the presentation that I'm sharing right now. Okay, so I'll start with our topic for today. But before we proceed with the OD, I want you to understand that what we've been doing from the start of our cooperative leadership and management program is already called or is already part of the organizational development. We started with these lessons, lessons 1 to 7. We started with what is the main objective of our organization. Nakikita ba yung aking PowerPoint? So, sa monitor ko kasi, it's not feeding on the Google. Thank you,
Yes,
Sir
ma'am.
Rick.
Nakikita po.
Thank you, Sir Rick. Okay. So, we started with cooperativism and leadership. And then we proceeded with the whole brain mindset and the external market environment and internal environment. Then we proceeded with the different operations for the organization, the finance, the marketing, the HR, and of course, the credit and savings. So as we go through these things, we learn that those are the factors that we need to consider when we do some development or when we start with organizing our cooperatives. So with lesson 1, just for the appreciation of those who just joined now, the first part is we learned about the cooperative identity. And then we learned that the cooperative are the real social enterprises. Why? Ano ba yung mga important factors about social enterprises? When you say social enterprises, you are very much involved with the social mission, and your primary stakeholders are poor and marginalized sectors. And there's this criteria on um, distributive philosophy, wherein the wealth of the cooperative is distributed to everyone na members natin. So at least more than 50% of our cooperative should be belonging to the marginalized and poor sector. And our goal is to help them become bankable. Usually ito yung mga non-bankables, and we wanted them to become bankables and improve their way of living, yung kanilang economic standing, no? Yung kanilang economic status. We also met the two social entrepreneurs na somehow their organization is very much similar to the cooperative sector. We met Ms. Ruth Calianta of the CCT Group of Ministries and Ms. Sylvia Munoz, which manages the Kapampangan Development Foundation. So si Sylvia Munoz is an example of the transactional social enterprises. They serve the poor sectors by giving services, free services of hospitalization to the poor. While si Ms. Ruth Calianta is serving the street children, no, turning their lives into a better one by transforming them, grooming them, giving them values, teaching them the values and principles of helping and being helped, yung values of self-help. Now, we also learned that there are social enterprises na social inclusions lang. Part lang ng kanilang organization ang pagtulong sa mahihirap. For example, those branded products that we patronize, like let's say Jollibee, they patronize the farmers cooperative sector para sa kanilang mga raw materials. So they are social inclusions because their main objective is to earn. Okay, so this is also a recap to our LAMP participants. So among these two, no, what we learned from them is the passion of helping, the passion of transferring the principle and the ideals of self-help. And at the same time, we learned from our previous lessons the objectives of the German mayor and founder of credit unions in Germany, Mr. Friedrich Wilhelm Raiffeisen. Okay, so he said that the way to overcome poverty is for everybody to learn how to save and help themselves. So we studied the cooperative idea. And from our lessons, we also learned the different traits or the differences of the co-op. In lessons 1, we learned that the uniqueness of the co-op is that it's controlled, it's owned, and it's operated and patronized by our members. So we've also we've also reviewed about the core and ethical values of the co-op. The first 5 values are what we call the core values. So these are the values that we practice in our co-ops. And the ethical values are those values that has been handed down to us by our founders in the cooperatives. And we are now practicing it, and it's something that is really very common among or across the cooperative and credit union sector. So we've learned also the 7 principles of co-ops. Okay, so I'll not expound much on this because I expect everybody knows about these principles. And after learning our base and after touching base, understanding our mission and our vision, we proceeded with lessons 2, understanding our people. Saang mindset nang gagaling yung ating mga employees, and that's already part of the HR discussion then. We've dwelled on the brain, the whole brain concept. There's a left brain and right brain, and each of this part of the brain is equivalent to the preference of our preferential thinking way of our members, and of our employees. We need to understand how our people think, and then that's how we fit our approach to them on how we handle them. Like for example, uh, in quadrant A, when you say you are in quadrant A, you speak numbers, you speak about data, you speak about facts, and then you are more analytical and quantitative. So kung may makausap kang member or may makausap kang employee who has this kind of who using this quadrant of his brain or her brain, then you should always speak to that person using facts para magkaroon kayo ng leveling off. But if you are talking to a person who's more focused with process, with the systems, organization, and a little bit of a conservative type of person, you explain the process. You explain to them yung steps. Mas ma-appreciate nila if your language is on the same level. Now, if you are talking to a person who's more affective, medyo emotional siya, then this is yung personal approach. And we found out majority of the cooperatives has this quadrant, the dominant quadrant, no? Yung pagiging people-oriented, relationship-oriented, emotional-oriented, and that we have the interpersonal skills. No? Yun yung pinaka-strength natin working for the cooperatives. And finally, this is where we want to bring our leaders. You as managers, we want you to develop the D quadrant. There are people who are really visual person, medyo futuristic kung tumingin sila, and usually we found them sa mga higher levels positions, leadership positions, like they could be businessmen, they could be our CEOs, they could be our chairman and member of the board of directors. So these 4 quadrants, if you develop all these areas, initially we have a quadrant na very strong tayo eh. But we can develop these areas. If we develop it, then we become full brain thinkers. Yun yung ating tinatry or pinipilit na ma-accomplish. Matuto nating magamit yung lahat ng quadrant ng brains natin and to utilize it because it's with us. It's just that when we do some decision making, we have our preferences. And sometimes we don't notice it, no? Hindi natin napapansin. But we are really operating in that area kasi related sa trabaho natin. If you are a finance manager, tendency is you're more of quadrant A and quadrant B. If you're an admin manager, you're more likely as a person who's working in the quadrant B, no? Dominant ang quadrant B mo because you're more focused on policies, procedures, and processes. But if you are in human resource, we expect you to be more of B and C. Kasi you implement the policies, but at the same time, you should consider the emotions, the welfare of our human resource, yung mga employees natin, and the people we deal with. If you are in the HR, usually you handle not only yung rank and file, and not only up to the level of the managers. You should also think about plans for your board of directors, how you will improve them, how will you develop them. Last night, mga 11 a.m., I was attending a virtual summit of the learning and development team sa LinkedIn Education. No? So they have this virtual summit, and now they say that the focus of the direction of learning and development is harmonizing the automation and the human aspect. So systematizing both these two functions. Bakit? Kasi nasa digital age na tayo, and digitization is the new normal. However, wala yung people touch. So medyo lacking pagdating sa people touch. Now, how will you systematize your organization's design or yung iyong organizational structure that the humanitarian part will still be present. Yung people touch present pa rin. So how can you do that? We'll try to learn that tomorrow because part of my presentation and sharing with you is what I learned from the virtual summit, as well as yung new learnings about the new structure for the Z generation. Before, we're so much focused with Y generation. Maybe up until now, hindi pa tayo nakaka-cope totally or fully with the Y generation kasi merong X generation, may baby boomers, and then now here's the Z generation. Why do we need to go there? Because they are now joining the workforce. No, pagkakasama na sila, composition ng yung workforce is up to the Z generation, then you need to be multi-skilled in terms of dealing with your people. Okay, sandali lang, maglolobat ako. Okay, so we've also learned in our lessons before that the proper way of planning is we start with the right. Begin with the end in mind, no? We start with the right, we start with the vision, we start with the mission and objectives. Kailangan clear ito. Very clear to us so that we will not have a mission trip. Before we determine our performance indicators or outcomes, it should be aligned. So then from this, if this part is already clear, then we can now proceed with the strategies, thinking of the strategies, and then the action program, the activities, the task, and the resources. Okay, so just quickly, we started doing our market research, no? Our external market research. We try to draw a picture of our cooperative's future and describe that future. So we try to begin with the end in mind. So ano yung gusto nating ma-accomplish? And from there, nasaan na? We have to review. Where are we right now? Where is our co-op right now? We try to analyze the past trends. So this is what we call the external analysis and project it to the future. We look into the government policies and regulations, the incentives, industry status, dynamics and structure, the market demand, supply potentials, prospects, and micro-market assessment. So when we do our external analysis, we don't only look with our members, we also look at the community and the people outside the community. Even if those area na hindi tayo affected or we are not really much concerned, we look into it kasi they will be affecting us in the future. Somehow, they will be influencing the preferences of our members, no? Yung ating pinaka-target members or target customers, they are being influenced by the environmental factors. These are the social factors, the political factors, the technology. Those are examples of what influences them. So from the external analysis, we studied the internal naman. What are inside the cooperative? Yung ating efficiency on how we use our resources, the effectiveness of our people, the capabilities of our co-op. When we say capabilities, yung ating machineries, our capital, or yung funds natin, and then the human resource, these are the things that we look into. So we also look at the capabilities of our management team, and then the people who are working from the top going down to the rank and file position. So from there, that's the time now that we are able to identify the opportunities and threats. And then we also get to identify the strengths and weaknesses. So we conducted a SWOT analysis. Now, OD is actually the application of these strategies. So when we do now with organizational development, we now think of implementing the strategies that we've designed. Kaya yung organizational diagnosis is actually the internal and external analysis. And then organizational design is actually forming or systematizing your systems and procedures, your throughput, as we implement our strategies. And then the structure is designing the different levels inside our organization. Okay, so after going through it, so there's the template what we use. Still from 4 to 7, what we learned is that we always start with the vision, and in the end, when we evaluate the performance of our operations, let's see if it's still aligned with our vision and mission and our objectives. So siguro you can quickly, for the new attendees, you can quickly take a picture of this. This is the framework that we use in strat planning. And at the same time, this is the baseline of what we will be studying today, the beginning of understanding the organizational design. Okay, so that is for the quick recap. I'm checking if you have questions, no, you can type it in the chat box because I'm monitoring the chat box just in case you have some questions. Okay, so do you have any questions before we proceed with the meat of our presentation and discussion for today? So far, wala pang questions. I hope everybody is catching up with what I'm discussing right now. Okay, so what is now organizing? When we say organizing, as I mentioned earlier, it's the implementation of our strategies. Okay, so in this structure, Doc Murato call it the organizational architecture. Kasi when we do some architectural design, no, we come out with the blueprints. And this is the blueprints of organizational design. So what we do is we try to organize our human resource to carry out yung programs, activities, and tasks that we've identified during strat planning. Right now is a month for strat planning, and I think you are already thinking of ano ba yung mga projects natin or what would be the focus of our programs, no, for the improvement of our operations. For the HR, they are thinking about what would be the programs necessary to improve the efficiency of their manpower, of their people. Okay, so to implement it, this is what you call the trilogy of organizational architecture. There are 3 legs. It's actually the title of our program today. One is the diagnosis. So you have to feel first kung meron bang sakit yung ating organization to improve the structure or the system within. And then from there, we design programs or we design the system. And then we come out with a fixed structure that will serve as our blueprint or framework when we implement our organizational system or architecture. Okay, so let's start with organizational diagnosis. So we've learned as well that there are 10 levels of assessment. Okay. So let us review these 10 levels of assessment. Level 1 is performance outputs and outcomes. Yearly, we do some review of our KPI if we are meeting the targets. And sometimes we have these moving targets because we are not able to meet the kumbaga projected targets. But the ideal is that we don't change the targets, no, at the middle of the year or at the quarter of the year. Siguro the targets can be aligned after you come out with a benchmark. Kaya we have to review the last 5 years or the last 3 years performance. So if we projected our KPIs, then it will be nearer to what we can really do for our targets. Parang you stretch your people up to what extent, but make sure that it is smart, no? Specific, measurable, attainable, diba? And timely. What is R? I forgot the R. Okay, so those are reasonable, I think. So those are what we need to look into. Now we analyze or we check the competencies and capabilities of our people. So if they are well trained or if they are fit to do their functions well, there would be no gaps. Walang kailangang i-develop pa. So you are on your way to proper implementation. But sometimes ang indicators ng they are not fit or not competent for the position is that they are not meeting the KPI, the targets. And then we have the utilization of resources. Are we projecting the right budget when we do the planning? Are we using the right budget that we projected? Or is it too much lesser compared to what we have? Or is it more than what we projected? Okay? And then level 4 is the management process. So when you say management processes, it's the policies, the systems that we have in place. And then we look into the operations of our marketing, the performance of our marketing, the operations, the human resource and finance. Level 6 is reviewing the performance of our teams and each individual. 7 is the appropriateness and readiness of your physical facilities and physical resources, your setup and working condition. And then 8 is organizational affiliation, yung networks natin. Baka mamaya we have so much partners that we are spending so much sa partners natin and we're not gaining from the partnership. When that happens, hindi partnership yon. Parang ikaw, bigay ka ng bigay, but you are not gaining something from it. You are not benefiting. Should be mutual. So when you have partners, you also evaluate the benefit that you get from them. Or vice versa, no? And then level 8 is organizational affiliations and alliances and linkages, no? Number 9 is top management and board leadership. So do you evaluate your board of directors and their leadership? Do you have criteria in their performance? And then lastly is our targets and our programs aligned with our vision and mission? So it's the strategic fit. If you look into these 10 levels of assessments, you will note that there are different colors. You just combine level 1, level 3, and level 4 and 6 are actually a measure of your organizational efficiency. So they are efficient when they are able to perform their functions well, no? And you are able to meet, your budget is able to meet what is required for the operations, and you are really utilizing well your resources. So that's efficiency. And now, level 2, level 5, and level 7, if you remember, is the capacity of your organization. Then the rest, 8, 9, 10, is the management and leadership directions and decision making. Okay, so it's a measure of how well they do or you come out with decisions. This is how effective and efficient is your management team. Okay. So still in diagnostics, after you conducted a 10-level assessments, now we do some assessment of our strategy implementation. Para itong business planning activity review. So when you put into place your strategies, usually you determine what worked and what didn't work. So if there's so much things like hindi nag-work, you have to think and dig deeper, what could be the cause? What could be the problem? No, doon sa ating implementation. And then you try to come out with options on how to address the gaps. Okay? So you also have to look into the resource mobilization. When you implement your budget plan, and when you, let's say, purchased all the equipments that you wanted to purchase, did it generated the desired result or expectations that we have? And when you hire people, ang expectations natin, if they are already with experience, we hired people with experience, you don't need a lengthy training schedule for them or onboarding to perform their functions. But honestly, no, 6 months is not sufficient to really train yung person para sabihin na natin inculturate o ma ma-imbibe na niya yung culture ng ating cooperative. So it need at least a year para maging comfortable sila with their functions and you'll be able to see results from their performance. Kaya dapat yung ating mga performance indicators, yung criteria natin in the performance evaluation of new people, like sabihin na natin probationaries, should not be the same with the performance criteria of our regular employees. Ang expectation is kapag ka-regular employee ka na, you'll be doing more than what is expected from you. For the probationary, it's a learning phase. They are taking in the process and the functions that we have inside our cooperative. So, nag-aano pa lang yan ginagamayin niya pa lang yung kanyang sarili doon sa mga trabaho at papaano ginagawa sa loob ng ating kooperatiba. Pati yung ating movement, no? As a cooperative, hindi naman sila papasok na may the same mindset Kasi ang mindset ng tao, kaya sila nag-apply ng trabaho sa atin, it's because of their basic needs. They need income to feed their family. But there are also people na who comes in dahil social yung kanilang personal objective. Gusto nilang tumulong at ma-uplift yung lives ng kanilang mga constituents, ng kanilang community. But madalang ito. Sa atin, sa kooperatiba, marami na kasi nag-groom natin sila. That is how effective is our onboarding program. We touch on the heart of the people, yung puso na tatouch natin. However, if you don't have an onboarding program or a proper transfer of this value sa ating mga employees, hindi rin nila ma-imbibe yon. Papasok sila sa ating co-op, tapos lalabas sila sa ating co-op nang hindi man lang sila member ng kooperatiba. No? Baka may mga ganito tayong experience. They come and go and yet they are not members of the cooperatives. So the least that we expect is when they come in, magme-member sila ng co-op and at the same time when they go out, they're still members of the cooperative. Kaya mas ideal na for me if they transfer from our co-op to another co-op. At least hindi lalabas sa movement natin yung mga talent resources natin. So look into these 3, yung 10 levels of assessment, and then look into the strategy implementation, and look as well into the resource mobilization. Okay? So, organizational diagnosis should reveal the qualitative and quantitative aspects of our performance. Okay? So, going from here, ano na yung madedetermine natin? Yung gaps on the quality of our project and program implementation. Then the gaps in the quantitative, that's typographical, quantitative gaps. And then the technology and hardware and software and total capacity of our co-op. Okay, so let's talk about these gaps. Ano itong mga gaps na ito? So, in the qualitative, no, we assess the ability of our staff to deliver the right outcomes for the customers. When you say customers, it's our members through the production of right output. So, kaya nga ang una nating tinitignan is the outcome. When you say outcome, hindi natin talaga siya totally ma-measure because it's the satisfaction, the happiness, and the ability that we are able to improve the lives of our members. Usually, para masabi natin na na-meet ang outcome is that hindi na dati 2 beses lang kumain yung ating members. Pwedeng 3 times a day or 5 times a day na sila kumakain after helping them, after the co-op are able to help them improve their economic status. So yun yung measure ng outcome. But the output is more measurable kasi ito yung binibigay nating service sa kanila. like the loans that we lend to our people, and then the savings, no? And then also the education that we teach our members on how they can improve from being an employee to becoming an entrepreneur, o di naman kaya still an employee but moving up in their career ladder, or by the way they sustain the studies of their children, is one way of assessing yung pinaka-output natin, no? With the loans that we lend them, it should be able to improve their lives. So from there, you can say that if it's present, yung ating mga employees are efficient. They are doing their job well because they are being able to meet the targets or the outcomes. Now, when we look into quantitative, we evaluate whether or not yung ating cooperative has the required capacity to deliver all the required output and outcomes. Ang gagaling ng ating mga empleyado. However, kulang ang ating funding to sustain the loans, o di naman kaya lahat ng ating mga computers are at 360 Pentium. 360 yung napakabagal pa. Hindi pa siya upgraded. So sometimes, yung ating capacity hampers the efficiency of our people. So look into it, what would be the gaps, and then you can come out now with organizational design or strategies to improve the situation of our cooperative. In terms of technological, no, we have to look into the details of the programs, activities, and the task. If you remember, we showed you the enterprise value delivery system. I'll show it again to you. We pointed out that when you look into the throughputs, yung programs, activities, and tasks, this define the organizational competencies of our cooperative. Pero yung inputs natin, the people, the pesos, and then the physical assets, this actually sustain yung capacity ng ating cooperative. Now, yung mismong nasa gitna nitong input and throughput is the system. Yung connection nitong dalawang ito. So, if it's the connection, is the system, it's usually equated with the technology on how you do it, the application, the implementation. So, sometimes itong gitna na ito, dito merong gap, dito merong problema. Okay? So, this is what I'm talking of. Yan. Yung ating value system. Diba? We begin with the outcomes and then the outputs before we design the programs, the activities, and the tasks. Let's say, ang program natin would be the development program of our people, o di naman kaya ay improving the process or systems of our loans, no? Of our loan products, pwede. Those are programs. Now, you come out with activities on how to implement those programs and specific tasks kung kanino naka-assign. So, who would be the champion? Now, look into it, review it, evaluate it, and then what you will generate are the competencies. When you say competencies, ito, no, yung ating competencies, these are the skills and the soft skills of our people. Ano-ano ba mga example ng kailangan nating soft skills? Patience. Unang-una na pasensya. When you talk with people, di ba, we are dealing with people. So dapat, when you talk with people, you have the ability to listen. Dapat this is a core competencies of our people. Common sa lahat ng mga empleyado natin. Kasi nasa kooperatiba sila, so dapat well-develop ang kanilang listening skills. And then, in terms of communication, isa pang core competency yon ng ating mga empleyado. Marunong ba silang mag-relate ng information and message nila sa ating mga members? If not, then there's a way of actually sending the message. But sometimes, yung mga taong hindi very good in communication, particularly sa verbal communication, we put them sa back end. So now your organizational design is, your frontliners would be people who are very good in communication. Sila yung marunong makipagkapwa-tao, marunong makisama, at may pasensya. Yung nasa back-end mo naman would be people who are keen to details. Yung masyado silang detalyado, they know how to look into documents well, and then they know how to analyze. Ito naman yung mga core skills na kailangan mo. So when you do an organizational structure, make sure that you have the right fit of people to the right position. So that those, you will be able to determine it through the competencies. Pero para masabi mo na yun nga yung competencies na kailangan mo, as HR, you should have a clear understanding of your program, of your activities, and your task. Now, as I've mentioned earlier, resources, the inputs, are the capacity determinant. No? So these are the people, the pesos, and the physical assets. I think na-capture natin na yan, ano, na-mention na natin earlier. So, when you're done with your diagnosis, na-determine natin yung qualitative, quantitative, and then the technical or technology requirements yung sa system natin na gaps. If you determined it, now you can design. Ano yung design mo doon sa organizations mo? There are different approaches to designing, no? Meron tayong tinatawag na organizing for customers. Anong ibig sabihin nito? When you design your process, ang iniisip mo would be, ano yung fit for our members? So, organizing for our members. Okay, so what are these? Yan. So, accordingly, no, when we organize for our members, for our customers, there are, there's systems that we have to follow. Okay, and we have to determine. One is yung awareness ng ating mga customers. Let's get into the awareness of our customers. So when you organize for the awareness of your customers, there are stages that you need to do, no? There are kumbaga channels. Yun. There are channels that we need to use para ma-enhance natin yung kanilang awareness. We can send them the information through the different channels, like pwedeng brochures, pwedeng TV advertisements, or we can have the PMES, but before that, ano yung iyong activities for their awareness. These are examples of the different venues that you can use para maging aware yung ating mga members on the services that we have. The corporations usually have money to invest in marketing. Sa kanila, usually, an average of 20% or minimum of 20% is already allotted sa marketing side. So they invest on television ads, radio ads. But if you are thinking of investing on television ads or radio ads, usually basic information yung isinishare natin. Yung mabilis lang mag-grasp, okay? Laging maaasahan. That's how you come out with slogans. Kasi when you give it to the people, when they hear it, matatandaan na kaagad nila. So, kami sa KRC or the Cooperative Academy of NATCO, ang slogan natin would be the Center of Cooperative Development. So, yun yung pinaka-slogan namin, to become the Center of Cooperative Development. However, it conflicts with CDA kasi CDA also is Center for the Development of our Cooperatives, di ba? So, we have to come out with a slogan that would really be more applicable and would be reminded of KRC. So, we change it. The Center of Cooperatives Knowledge Management. Pag sinabi mo namang knowledge management, it's not limited with training. But it also is, kumbaga may involvement din yung research, gathering of information, and then sharing this information to our members. Okay, so more of the research arm of NATCO. Okay, so you think about your cooperative's basic information if you are going to use the television ads or radio ads. Now, after thinking about television and radio ads, i-assess mo rin naman, do you have people to do the production? Are they able to do it? Or do you have the money to pay for the advertisements? Ang TV advertisements right now is like 350,000 per, ilang minutes ba yon? Per 3 minutes yata. Or as I remember it, parang 25 seconds pa nga lang yung iba. Depending on the network and depending on the programs. Okay? So those are the things that you need to look into. Now, if you want to give functional information, then you use brochures, infomercials, print ads, promo events, and experts evaluation. So these are more of yung meron na silang effort to really come into details, inform our members with more details and more information. Medyo kailangang malawak-lawak na yung approach. So they can read the brochures or they can check your websites. Okay, so for more detailed specifications, you give them the manuals. You let them go to your websites or papakausap mo sa salespeople niyo. Okay, so other modalities for consumer awareness are these. I think I will not expound so much on this part para matapos natin yung ating, kasi nasa design pa lang tayo, matapos natin lahat. Maybe if there are some items na hindi clear sa inyo, you can chat in the chat box para mas ma-address natin. Okay, so others are pwedeng i-outsource, pwedeng hindi kayo ang gumawa, lalo na you don't have the competencies sa people ninyo. You go through the ad agencies, event managers, call centers, or telemarketers. We don't usually employ the call centers. Others, collaborative effort with product principals. We partner, when you say product principals, you partner with other agencies or other organizations. Like in terms of education, in earthquake drills or fire drills, kanino tayo makikipag-partner? We partner with LGUs, local government units natin. And then with distributors and dealers. For example, Kaya Payment Platform. We provide you the Kaya Payment Platform. Kami ang magpo-provide ng training for the new users of the Kaya Payment Platform. Okay? Let's say, trade journals would be, pwede kayong makipag-partner sa mga radio stations or sa mga magazine, publishers, no? And active contribution to industry experts and information. Ako, I participate in surveys with LinkedIn at saka sa Employers Confederation of Cooperatives. I usually answer the surveys kasi bibigyan nila ako ng copy ng research manuals or research results. Then I use those materials as references para sa mga trainings. We need to keep on updating ourselves for the sake of our members, for the sake of our customers. Now, in-house is if you have this different unit. May mga co-ops pa kasi wala pang marketing and membership unit or department. It is still a function of the operations. But there are some co-ops who already have the department for marketing and membership. Ayan. Kaya lagi kong pinagdidikit ang marketing and membership kasi yan yung isa din sa unique trait ng ating organization. The marketing aspect is always dependent on the preference of our members. So marketing and membership, medyo ganyan siya. Dikit na dikit siya. Okay? So, next is, okay. So, yun yung mga way, no, para maging aware yung ating customers, para ma-arouse yung interest ng ating mga members. Let's proceed with organizing for the favorable assessment and evaluation of the organization's products and or services by the customers. Okay, when you say assessing or evaluation of our products and services, what comes into mind is customer survey, right? Or satisfaction survey ng ating mga members. So, what we do is we can look into these approaches. Pwede naman nating kopyahin or i-practice and then customize it on what will be fit or ano yung babagay sa ating kooperatiba. So initial evaluation process would be, for example, comparison of product features and attributes. Huwag ka munang pumunta sa yung members, but this is from the perspective of the members. What they do is, they do window shopping. Pupunta sila sa isang co-op, itatanong nila ano yung requirements to get a loan. Then, bibisita sila sa kabilang co-op para itanong din ano yung kanilang loans and then ano yung kanilang requirements. So, yung pinakamaganda ang process, like let's say, walang masyadong requirements, usually doon nagpupunta yung ating mga members. Or, kung may kakilala sila, doon sa isang co-op, then doon sila kasi mas comfortable sila doon. So sometimes they do window shopping, no? Window checking. So others, what they do, they will look into your background. So internet browsing. Do you have a website? As a co-op, do you have a website? Have you thought of a design on how you can really promote your website on social media? Kasi, when I search one co-op's name, no, I will not name the co-op, ang daming lumilitaw, ang daming lumalabas. Different branches. So, would you like it to consolidate or talagang you really intended it to be na iba-ibang branches? Sometimes kasi, may kapareho lang palang pangalan, then you need to make sure that you have the identity of your co-op. Dapat klarong-klaro yung identity ng co-op natin. And then others, they look into the brochures, the materials. Kaya we don't take, we don't just disregard yung mga brochures natin. Look into the design of your brochures. Baka mamaya ay parang typewritten lang ang nakalagay dyan. Make it more visuals or put the benefits doon sa ating mga brochures. You know, when we post products, halimbawa meron tayong store, no, or consumer store, ang uso na ngayon, the trend is to put the benefits of the product online. Don't post the price, no, or just the specification of your product. Put the benefits. Ano yung mabebenepisyo nila? Because that is more captive or kumbaga mas, that is more memorable for our customers or for our members compared to the sizes kasi minsan standardized na and commercialized na yung mga prices and sizes. But they buy into the benefits from the product or the services. Okay, so others is by word of mouth, by asking friends and relatives, and others is by gut reaction. Itong gut reaction, hindi natin madidesign ito for our members kasi it's their feeling it's their personal perception. But you know, my tip is here. Kapag ka-bright yung iyong setup, like yung front, yung iyong kumbaga store, hindi store, tawag dito, floor plan. Let's say your floor plan is very bright and very maalwan, no? Hindi siya masyadong magulo. That is one thing that improves the feeling of the customer or the members. So pagpasok pa lang, the first impression would be, wow, napakaayos naman nitong co-op na ito, very professional ang dating. So you need also to look into your floor plans in designing yung setup naman ng iyong frontliners. Okay? So from there, somehow you address the gut reaction of our members. Now others is, next step that you can do is by documenting your testimonials. Ito ngayon yung paulit-ulit kong sinasabi sa mga tinuturuan kong co-op. Do you document the testimonials of your members? Okay? Minsan, pinapalabas natin sa mga televisions natin na nasa ating office, no? Yung sa ating front commercials, TV, programs, Bawawi, Itbulaga, mga ganyan ang nakikita nila. Because we want them to stay and wait, no, ma-enjoy nila. But we can also insert some testimonials, video testimonials of our members. Kasi by listening to it, then they will know na this co-op is really helping our members hindi ikaw ang nagsasalita for the credibility of your co-op, but it's your member who is talking to your prospective members. Okay, so try to capture and create testimonials for your co-op. Ito siguro hindi natin magagawa, yung product trials and experiences, but if we have first-timers, no, first time that they took a loan, what we try to do is we try to be responsive to their queries to improve in the experience of our members. So those are one way of getting yung the favor of our members. Now last stage is organizing for customer purchase and delivery. So when it comes to organizing for customer purchase and delivery, ito yung 7 items that you need to consider. Okay? So organizing for your customers or product delivery for your customers. Yung produkto mo ba will have low contact or high contact? Before, yung loans natin, high contact. We can say high contact yung loans. We ask them to go to your co-op, no? Do the filing of the documents, talk to your loan officers and credit initiators, high contact. Now, naka-pandemic tayo, so you need to lessen the contact. Kasi social distancing tayo ngayon. So bring it to the 3 level. So what will you do to lessen the contact? Probably you come out with a design of offering an online application for your services or the inquiries, online inquiries. Now, low accessibility ba or high accessibility? Okay, if you measure yung ating accessibility, before we look into saan yung location ng iyong co-op. Sino-sino yung kayang iserve ng iyong co-op? Diba? Yung mga adjoining towns or yung nandoon lang sa community mo. Now, with pandemic, yung accessibility mo, if you have an online platform already designed, tendency is you increase your accessibility. Now, low pitch or high pitch? Yan. Meron kasing mga credit cards, high pitch sila, no? The credit cards are high pitch. They really need to pitch. Ang kulit-kulit, tatawagan ka sa phone, ite-text ka, tapos may email pa. You as a co-op, ano ang approach mo? Would it be more of personal, hindi siya hard selling? Okay? So you are okay with the referrals? Or ikaw mismo, who would go after your prospective members? So that would be high pitch. Now, with regards to the activities, is it low frequency or high frequency? This has something to do with the visits that you do to your members. Usually, members who are good payers, sila yung pupunta sa co-op. So how can you develop that culture? Na sila yung magbabayad sa co-op. Hindi yung every month you send them letters. No? Every month you send them reminders. Okay? So sometimes you have to determine your composition of members. Sino yung mga delinquents, sino yung mga good payers, members in good standing, you separate them. Hindi dapat pareho yung iyong design for these two approaches. No? This one, mga delinquents could be a reminder, tutok talaga. Kaya we developed the RMU, Remedial Management Unit. Tapos yung ating mga members in good standing, it should not be RMU, ang kanilang kaharap. Should be, what would be the programs for members in good standing? May mga free education, may mga consultation, financial consultation. So, magkaiba yung design natin when we deal with our customers. Now, you will ask, di ba dapat equal ang treatment natin sa ating mga members? Yes, in terms of our products and our services, it's equal. Yung access nila with the co-ops and how they apply for the co-op, it's equal, okay? But if you are a member who's not really a cooperator, then we need to have a different approach for these people. Kasi kailangan pa nating itanim ng husto sa kanila yung values of cooperation. You are owners of the co-op, so you need to be responsible for the co-op. Kaya siguro delinquent could be they lost their job, but there are also people na wala pa talaga, hindi pa well ingrained yung values of cooperation. So come out with a design na would actually improve their mindset as a members of the cooperative. Now, traffic and high traffic, I think you know this already, yung gaano karaming transaction, no? Low servicing and high servicing. Of course, right now, even if naka-pandemic and online mode tayo, we still try to have the high servicing for our members kasi nga, we appeal to the personal aspect, yung parang personal approach for our members. Yan, low transaction or high transaction. May naghiwalay dito yung transaction and traffic because of those who are in the services, they use transactions. But actually, the traffic for us is services more on the transactions. Okay? Any questions so far? Walang question? Okay, so if you don't have any questions, kanina, organizing for the customers. Parang coming out with a design for the customers. Paano natin sila mai-involve doon sa ating co-op. Now, tayo naman, next step natin would be organizing for the operations. Ang hirap pala ng OD, ano? You organize for your members and then you organize for your operations. So, ano naman yung structure mo for the operations? Okay. The main purpose of the operations function is to produce goods and services that customers need or want. So, madali nang explain, no? It is concerned with the delivery system natin, involves the pre-operations, operations proper, and post-operations. Yung mga students natin sa LAMP, they have already encountered the pre-operations, operations proper, and post-operations. But let us expound on this aspect. Paano mo i-design ngayon yung pre-operations and what do we mean by pre-operations? Operations proper and post-operations. So let me show you an example. Okay. So this is an example of a flow chart for organizing for operations. Pre-operations is the beginning of your activities. Yung sa implementation ng ating mga transactions. Okay. So sa pre-operations, let us give an example doon sa new branch, bagong branch. You are opening a new branch. Okay? So one thing is you visit the site. Saan mo ilalagay yung iyong bagong office, yung bagong site? Tapos what would be the computers or the terminals needed doon sa bagong site? Ilan tao ang kailangan mo? So when you look into the service site, tignan mo rin, uupa ka ba? Uupa ka or bibilhin mo yung lote or yung unit? Okay, so ano yung iyong considerations? Maring upa muna kasi hindi pa tayo sigurado kung maraming tao dito na pupunta sa ating co-op. Now, choice of technology, are you going to use the old machines na galing sa head office or sa branch? Or are you going to have a better and new computers para presentable naman sa ating mga members? Okay? And probably you'll get additional computers kung karagdagang empleyado yung iyong ilalagay sa iyong bagong branch. Okay, designing of workflow and operating systems or methods. Kanina na-mention ko, if a member's experience is very good, pagpasok pa lang ng iyong branch, then it would generate a good feeling sa kanila kapag ka maaliwala. So you look into the layout. Yung flow ng transactions from the starting point going to the end point should be smooth. Okay, so look into the layout. Now, operating manuals is for the people. yung mga i-assign mo doon should have a manuals that they can check into since it's their starting point, no? New operations pa lang siya. Para hindi siya tawag ng tawag sa head office if they have questions. They should have been oriented, they should have been trained well before being deployed to the new branch. Now, looking into the capital, kapag ka nag-start ka ng new branch, saan galing yung capital mo? Did it came from other branches? So they shared the capital for your new branch? Or is it coming from a loan from the bank? Okay? So, in doing the pre-operations, designing for the pre-operations, you also look into the administrative manuals. Kasi yung back-end support mo provides the manpower and then the support for the documentations. It's from your administrative support. So from here, from this point, this is what we call the pre-operations. Okay? Pag set up pa lang ng bagong branch, matrabaho na. Now, during the operations, ito na yung nakasanayan natin. If it's very new, no, yung mga taong nakalagay dyan are all new, tendency is, even in the operations, yung activities nila, meron pa rin silang mga adjustment na ma-encounters. Even if old nga, may mga adjustment pa rin silang ma-encounters kasi different environment and different culture ng community. So, make sure that you have enough resources, the supplies, the materials being used by your members and by your employees. Ayan. And then the management supervision, yung manager mo ba are already, kumbaga, veterans from the co-op? If they are new managers, newly hired managers, then probably ano mo pa rin sila, iti-train mo pa rin sila sa culture ng iyong co-op. And then the administrative support, how will you be able to get it? Kung hindi centralized ang iyong back-end support like HR and finance, hindi head office ang nagpo-provide nito, tendency is you might need to hire an additional admin personnel. So, ide-deploy mo ba siya sa iyong branch, new branch, or will it be just a service coming from the head office? Now, go to the actual delivery, review the actual delivery, the productivity and the quality assurance and control, and then the performance. These are the operations design. You need to come out with an evaluation for each activity of your operations proper to make sure that the process, the systems, and the people are effective and efficient. So post-operations is like warehousing. Usually, hindi naman tayo warehousing. More of the savings or the enough capitals for our loans and services. Delivery distribution is the design of the marketing department and how it's being transferred down to your branches. Branding and then customer acceptance or rejection is post-operations. Dito muna ginagawa yung mga surveys, evaluations of your outcome and output dito sa post-operations. So when you organize for operations, ito yung inyong pwedeng gamiting framework. Imagine how many manuals you will be creating if you do a manual for your pre-operations, operation proper, and then the post-operation. So, unti-unti lang. But having the manuals would help you become sustainable. Kasi hindi ka na training for your employees. Okay. So, there are 10 criteria for operations. One is, in organizing for operations, choose the correct inputs and throughputs. So, dapat tama lang yung ating tao, yung resources na ginamit natin, no? And the capital that we use. Second criteria is find the highest output to input ratio. Ibig sabihin, you just measure your input with your output, no? Itimbangin mo lang, are you utilizing 50% or maximizing your people already? in deciding if you are going to hire your people, review your people's performance. Sino yung umuwi ng 5 p.m.? Sino yung umuwi ng 7 p.m.? Ang next na question, bakit siya 7 p.m. umuwi? Efficient ba siya? Or sobrang dami ng kanyang trabaho? Can you transfer the excess work doon sa isang empleyado doon sa isa? Wala bang conflict of interest kapag i-transfer mo yung functions? Or would you rather add additional employees? So those are the approach to designing your operations or your people for the operations. Then the third criteria is to produce the required volume of outputs, that is the targets. Ang mahirap yung mga seasonal, kailan ba mataas ang loans? Kapag June or pagpapasok na ang pasukan na, O di naman kaya kung nasa rural area ka at agriculture yung iyong environment or yung iyong community, kung kailan yung harvest season or kung kailan yung magpapatanim. So you determine the trends. So what you do is you plan ahead of time for these seasons. Kung kailan peak ang demand, dapat na doon yung enough capital mo. Dapat sa ganitong month, meron na akong enough savings para masustain naman yung demand ng aking mga members. So the fourth criteria is to achieve the lowest cost possible with losing quality. So cutting costs, yes, but do not sacrifice the quality of your service. Fifth criteria is to minimize or eliminate reworks, rejects, and returns. So, going through the activities, evaluating what worked and what did not work, makikita mo na kagad kung ano yung rejects and returns, kung ano yung dapat na i-improve. Okay, so kung may mga waste tayo. So siguro, we'll stop at this slide after we finish this slide, just for a 5-minute break. Okay? So, 6 criteria is to match your machine capacity with the labor productivity. Dapat match yung iyong mga equipments and facilities to your people. 7th criteria is yung cycle time. Gaano kabilis ang kanilang transactions or yung kanilang throughput. How long do they process the loans? 3 days, 2 days, 1 day only. Okay, so anong expectation ng yung members? Your members expect that they'll get the money immediately. Kung maaari nga sana within a day, okay? Pero how can you, kumbaga, speed up your release compared to the expectations of your members? Now, reduce wastage and unnecessary expenses is 8 criteria. 9 criteria is minimize working capital. Okay, baka tingnan natin, baka may mga trabahong redundant na, meron namang trabahong overloaded. So you need to do a job evaluation and job analysis. And then 10 criteria is maximize returns on the capital invested in operations. So collection efficiency, you have to look into the collection efficiency. Baka kaya hindi bumabalik kaagad dahil maraming delinquents, So how can you improve yung payment ng ating payment capability ng ating mga members? Okay, so we'll stop here. Let's have a 5-minute break. Sige, I'll entertain first the question before we'll have the 5-minute break. Ma'am Rebecca has a question here. Do you think job rotation can be helpful for efficient operation management? Yes. Helpful ang job rotation because you're improving the competency of your employees. However, sa job rotation, make sure that there's a proper turnover. Hindi agad-agad na rotate kagad sila. Come out with a process in job rotation. For example, the first part would be orienting them on what would be their next job. Ano yung next na pagpupuntahan nila. Okay? Assess mo ano yung kanilang qualifications for the next position. Kung may gap, you have to train them for that gap. So, dapat mag-training muna sila. Probably may shadowing. Every Friday, magsha-shadow ka muna doon sa papalitan mo na tao. And at the same time, yung tao na lilipat din, every Thursday naman, meron din siyang shadowing doon sa kanyang lilipatan. But make sure na habang nagka-training sila, it will not disrupt the operations. Baka mamaya, peak hours pala ang Friday, it's not the proper day para sa shadowing. Find a day na medyo maluwag para yung training mapagsabay doon sa operations. And then when they are already comfortable, kasi meron kang trainer doon may mentor ka doon sa ma-identify mong mentor, yung magtuturo sa kanila, dapat meron ka ring design for the compensation. Bakit? Yung incentives. Kasi they would be willing to train if it can be part of their performance evaluation. Probably tataas yung grade nila sa evaluation kasi nagtuturo sila. Or it could be there's additional allowance, no? Pwedeng free meals kasi nagte-training sila ng papalit sa kanila. So, make sure that it is also acceptable doon sa magtuturo. Okay, so make your transition acceptable and exciting. Create a culture of continuous learning. So, excited sila kung magja-job rotation sila kasi nag-aaral na sila, meron pang incentive silang matatanggap, tapos it will be also credited sa kanilang performance, therefore mapopromote sila. So kapag mayroon kang mga ganitong programs, it will not be risky for job rotation. However, kapag ang job rotation mo is immediately, culture shock ang mangyayari dyan. You need to manage change. So yon, yung sinasabi ko kanina, it's an approach to change management. So that's it, Ma'am Rebecca. Do you have a question? Another question. Job rotation po ba dapat ay within department lang nila? Like for example, sa accounting department. Okay. Not others, they do it within department lang. But you need to conduct an interview to all your employees. May mga empleyado tayo, they wanted to move from back end going to the operations, no? I had an experience, dati siyang nasa accounting pero gusto niyang pumunta sa operations at maging branch manager. So you need to know the interest of your employees. Then come out with a career path para sa kanila. Okay, so 3 years from now, pwede ka nang magkaroon ng exposure pero would on the same level, even if it's a different position, pero you need to complete your training for the operations. Kaya dapat meron ka ring list of trainings specific to the position. Tapos dapat qualified na siya doon sa position na lilipatan niya. Pero maganda kasi pagka within unit, lahat sila doon na mismo. Kung malaki yung unit mo, kung malaki yung department. Pero kung tatlo lang sila at sila lang din yung mag-iikutan doon, walang growth masyado. Limited ang development nila. So might as well do yung interdepartment rotation. Pero dapat planado well planned siya. Hindi basta-basta lipat agad. Okay? Welcome, Ma'am Rebecca. Okay, so Sir Paul has a question. Is this the same with GEMBA? What does GEMBA stands for? I'm not familiar with GEMBA. Can you type yan? Baka initial yung GEMBA? GEMBA walk. So let me read, no? Nakalagay dito kay Mr. Google. GEMBA is a Japanese word meaning the actual place. In lean practices, GEMBA refers to place where value is created, such as the shop floor, manufacturing, the operating room, site. Lean manufacturing, Six Sigma. It's different, no? Kasi ang GEMBA or lean manufacturing has a standards already, fixed na, no? They walk through the process, they follow the manual like a robot. So, kung ano yung standards, yun yung gagawin nila. They walk through it, they assume the role. Pero kasi yung sa atin, shadowing in the cooperative sector, the difference is sometimes you don't have the standards. Parang experiential muna yung binibigay natin sa kanila. Maganda kung standardized na yung system. However, ang difference kasi ng culture natin with the Japanese is really magkaiba talaga. You need to localize your process and your systems. Your strategies and design for your system should be localized. Yung napakinggan ko sa virtual kagabi, no? Yung HR expert ng Unilever, sabi niya ganon, now is not the time for standards processes. Now is the time para maging flexible and adaptive ang ating mga HR manager and our operational managers. They need to understand their people, where they are coming from, and at the same time, dapat mentees sila, coaches sila. No? Parang they are there to support, aalalayan nila yung kanilang staff kasi this is a new system, this is a new technology that is happening. Ang GEMBA, hindi masyadong flexible. They have their standards to follow. So, that's my opinion, Paul, no? Parang that's how I see it. Thank you then, Paul. Baka may idea ka that you would like to share with them?
Hello, ma'am. Morning.
Hello. Good morning. Yes, Ma'am Annabelle. Good morning.
I would like, ma'am, to add doon sa share mo na, ma'am. We agree, ma'am, sa sharing mo talaga po, ma'am. Before us, ma'am, na talaga po na, ano yan, sa amin, ma'am, is practical po namin na talaga po na ina-apply po ang job rotation. Nakita po namin, ma'am, talaga yung efficiency po niya. Bakit po siya nasabi po namin, ma'am? Hindi po kasi, ma'am, pwede po, ma'am, na yung ma-feel ng employee na hanggang dun lang siya sa baba. Or kaya po, maging, ano po, yung comfort zone po niya is nandun na lang siya. Yung job rotation po, ma'am, pag familiar na po siya, yung mastery po, nandun na siya, kailangan mo po siya mang tanggalin eh. Kasi sometimes po, familiarity po, ma'am, pwedeng meron na po tayo, ma'am, na, alam niyo na po yung mga pangyayari na possible, di ba po? The risk is there. Tapos, ma'am, yun, pag doon naman po sa sinasabi mo po, Ma'am Rose, nag-agree talaga po ako, ma'am. Tingnan mo po, ma'am, yung capacity. Sometimes, employees really po approach the human resource department na, ma'am, baka naman po, pwede naman po, ma'am, na, i-rotate niyo na po ako. Kasi, yung iba po, hindi na po sa kanila, ma'am, parang exciting pumasok. So, kasi routinary po siya. So parang bigyan niya po sila ng chance and basically po man upon hiring, makikita mo naman po ma'am kung saan po yung profile po niya ma'am eh. And hindi naman lahat po ma'am nakasulat. Once kasi makikita niyo na po yung kanila po ma'am na ginagawa, yung performance talaga po ma'am, iba po ma'am yung nakasulat kesa doon po sa nakikita. And then sana po ilagay natin sa isip ng employees na hindi kayo makontento na hanggang dyan lang. Pwede po ang job rotation lateral, parallel, or even kung you may do, kung makita nyo po na deserve ng employee po for the promotion. Kasi po, oo, yung motivation, ma'am, hindi siya financial lang po, ma'am. A simple recognition po sa kanilang pong ginagawa po, ma'am. Ni-rotate mo lang po siya, ma'am. Maybe pwede po nakita nyo, ma'am, na tama yung sinasabi po niya, ma'am. Hindi na po siya, ma'am, masaya po sa everyday. Yan na lang po, pag-type, pag-file. So, yun ma'am, nag-agree talaga po ako sa share mo po, Ma'am Rose. And then po, para makatulong kay Ma'am Rebecca naman po, ma'am. Try nyo po, you open po sa kanila kasi sa evaluation naman po, sheet nila, ma'am. Meron po doon nakalagay naman na, performance appraisal po na, on the next appraisal po, for example. Makikita nyo naman po doon, ano po yung need po niya. Malalaman nyo po kasi yung needed pa po nila ng mga trainings or seminars or even po gusto po nila practical talaga po. Palabasin niyo po siya kasi baka hindi po sa loob ang kanyang forte. Sa labas po, baka mas mag-excel po sila. May mga ganun kasi po mga situations po. Dito po sa amin, wala po sa field work. Or, babae nga po siya, pero wala po ma'am sa loob ng office yung kanya po ma'am na forte. nilabas mo po siya, naandun pala po ma'am yung kanya po talaga, yung magaling po siya sa makikitungo sa members. So, nakita mo po yung other side po niya.
Thank you, Ma'am Annabel. Thank you very much. Yeah, exactly. Tama yung sinabi ni Ma'am Annabel. Nakatie up sa performance management natin. Makikita mo na kung ano yung mga programs or development programs na kailangan ng ating mga empleyado. At nag-emphasize din si Sir Nestor Padilla. Sabi niya, job rotation is part of succession plan preparation as well. A good program for internal control. Exactly din po. Ano? Tama po yun. When we do succession plan, okay, you have a management training program. Kami doon we implemented it with GSAC and St. Martin, no? Yung management training program na yon, dapat willing yung mga empleyado mo na mag-perform ng functions that is lower than their position. Lalo na kung interdepartment. Kasi biruin mo, branch manager, magte-train as cashier. So ano yung mai-imagine mo? Parang kung may pride yung employee at hindi niya naiintindihan yung programa ng kanyang management training program, sasabihin niya, bakit ako magkakahera? Branch manager na ako. So kailangan well-communicated yung iyong management training program. Tapos they will be willing to go down just to experience. Hindi naman permanent yan na magiging kahera ka. It's just an exposure. Okay, so probably you also have to come out with the terms, gaano sila katagal doon sa position na yon. Maaaring kung job rotation siya, it's part already of your culture. Meron kayo, hanggang 1 year lang siya dito or hanggang 6 years lang siya dito. Because it's a motivational factor. Thank you, Ma'am Annabel and Sir Nestor for sharing. Are there any other questions before we go with a 5-minute break muna? Stretch break lang and comfort room break. So wala nang question? No question? Sir Jimmy, the HR has big role in the growth of the employee depending on their performance and their expectation. Yes. Kasi si HR is the mother, Sir Jimmy. Tama, no? Siya yung pinaka-mother, should be able to know what is the feeling of the children and what is needed by the children. No? And at the same time, supports the fathers or, of course, not the, pwede kasi na babae yung CEO nyo, but assuming the role of a decision maker, support din siya ng ating management. Thank you for that input. Okay, so let's have muna a 5-minute break. It's 10:44. Come back tayo ng mga 10:50 to continue with our discussions. Okay, nakabalik na sana lahat. Is everybody back? Okay, sige. I'll continue with the presentation. Kung may question tayo, just type it in again, then we'll check your questions mamaya. And I will do some sharing as well sa mga insights natin. Okay, let me continue with this presentation. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're done with this. Organizing for the customers. Now, done na rin tayo with organizing for the operations. Let's look into organizing for suppliers. Usually, our suppliers are the federation, yung mga training natin is being supplied by the federations or other training institutions. And pagdating naman sa ating mga capital, it's the savings of our members and from the banks, no? Capital then is coming from the banks or other financial institutions. So, hindi natin ito madalas ginagamit when we do a structure for suppliers. But if you look into this format, yung makikita ninyo dito sa organizational modality for in-house and outsource operation, this has something to do with the services that we outsource and services that we we get from our employees. So in-house is like, for example, brand building and marketing. So who would be the different departments or different units dealing with the marketing and branding? Okay, so sa in-house, for example, fully integrated production, logistics, and selling. So, ang example po nito is the frontliners. What would be your uniform that you present? The kind of personality of your personnels na nasa frontline? What is the color and layout of your pinaka-store or yung pinaka-front office natin? And then, it can also be integrated. Yung branding and marketing can also be integrated with the logistics, like yung ating motorcycle. Does it have logos or something? Or yung pagdating sa servicing natin, like yung ating mga van, meron din ba tayong mga logos and brochures here? Okay. It can also be, wala naman tayong manufacturing, no? We're more into servicing, okay? So every time that we deal with our customers, do we have calling cards that we give to them? So that's also part of branding. Partial servicing or assembly only, the extra services that is attached with your products, like for loan products or for loan services, no? Do you give financial advice sa kanila? Mga loans na gagamitin sa business? Do you assist them with the management, the strategizing? So, do you provide entrepreneurs training or business development training para sa ating mga loan members, mga members na nag-loan sa atin? Now, in terms of quality assurance, monitoring, and control, yung marketing and branding can also be integrated. Like do sa membership department natin, do they have follow-ups, follow-through, visitations, house visits? So those can be part of the marketing and branding. Okay? So how about sa outsourcing? When you say outsourcing, you get the service of other organization or other enterprises. Okay, so you check, usually it's with your consultancy, the advisory, and auditing services. No? Sa atin, we get the consultancy from the NATCO consultants, or we have other co-op consultants coming from experts or retired experts from the co-op sector. And pagdating naman sa audit, SGS, we get the SGS. So, sometimes we outsource this activities. Like, for example, selling, franchising, dealership consignment, no? We offer our members na they can get the products sa paglaom. They have this consignment na ginagawa para sa kanilang mga turmeric, sa kanilang mga produkto ng mga members nila. If you're going to resell, naka-bundle yan or di naman kaya consignment. So, raw materials and supply selling and logistics, ikaw pa ba meron ka bang purchasing department? Or do you have one dealer na siya yung nagko-collect ng mga kailangan mong resources para naman sa yung kung meron kang restaurant or kung meron kang hospital, isang tao na lang yung kausap mo. Hindi lahat in that area. So, pwedeng i-outsource siya. Parts and component sellings and logistics, usually we don't have this, no? Hindi naman natin kailangan yung mga sa parts and components of the machineries kasi wala naman tayo sa manufacturing. Product manufacturing, full servicing, selling and logistics, and brand building and marketing. So, if you have this format, guided ka na ngayon, you'll be able to analyze majority of my operations. Yung marketing and branding activity is done here, dito sa part na ito, in-house siya. But when in terms of designing yung ating mga strategies in implementing or coming out with strategies sa marketing and selling, I get it from the consultancy or advising or part of the audit result. So makikita mo na kagad kung paano yung distribution of the activities and programs of within your operations. So that is organizing for suppliers. Pinaka-focus, where do you get the service to fill in the operations and the functions of your co-ops. Okay, so madalang itong gamitin sa co-op kasi hindi naman siya masyadong kumbaga, hindi tayo ganun ka-detailed talaga and hindi naman masyadong commercialize ang ating activities. So, we also have organizational designs for the support services. So, this includes yung various units within the organization. You need to determine whether they are servicing outside customers or inside customers. Examples na lang nito. HR is servicing internal customers. Finance department is servicing internal customers. But our operations, the credit and savings, are servicing external customers. Okay, so the market clientele for your services determines kung ano yung internal or external or yung type of customers mo. So the services that you perform determines sino yung dapat na maging recipient ng iyong services. So usually, to determine yung structure, ang tinitignan mo dito is the flow of the activities. Ikaw yung provider, and then sino yung receiver. And then, if you are the receiver, saan mo siya kinukuha? So, example nito, medyo madalumat. Ito. So, for medyo malabo, no? But here, makikita mo, external customers are concerned with the quality, delivery, price, and expectations. No? Sales and logistics is determined by the right products provided at the right time and volume. Production involves your machines, no? Your operations using the capacity of your machines. So engineering is actually redefining the system that you are using. So, sa board of directors naman natin, ano yung mga services na concern nila? They need to address yung mga sales and logistics. They need to address yung sa re-engineering kasi process and procedures. They have to come out with policies and procedures on the operations. They need to look into the production. So, makikita mo ngayon yung flow, kanino i-address yung kanilang mga services. And then, this part is the criteria. Yung mga naka-insert dito. But those in the boxes are actually the suppliers or the providers. Now, when you do this is mapping. We call it mapping. Ayan. Pero if you do this, nag-overlap siya. What we are used with is yung design ng structure na hierarchical. No, yung parang meron tayong board of directors, and then the CEO or the general manager, then down the line would be the branch managers and the managers of the different department. But this is like one approach to planning or seeing the design for your services, back-end services. Okay, so just a sample. So when we are clear already of the designs, ano yung flow ng mga services natin, who would be the recipients, who would be the supplier, tapos ano yung desires ng customers, tapos ano yung mga activities involved. Now we can proceed with the third leg, kasi yung ikatlo na, which is yung organizational structuring. It is now plotting para makita mo, mai-layout mo yung blueprint mo kung paano talaga yung flow of information, flow of decision-making, and the flow of communication inside your organization. So it should be designed in a way na maximum responsiveness ang makuha natin coming from your internal and external customers. Okay? So tatlo palagi yan, flow of decisions, the flow of communication and information, and ano yung sinabi ko kanina, the authority level, the control, and the functions. Okay, so mga ipapakita ko are just graphs, mga example lang of graphs that is used by the different enterprises or different organization. Kapag ka supply chain ang ginamit mong flow, sometimes you have to determine the type of customers that you have. For example, your customer A are group of educators. So if it's a group of educators, iba yung approach ng iyong supply chain. They deal with the schools. Collection is through the payroll. Probably that would be the system. Now, if your group of customers or members are coming from the informal sectors, iba rin yung supply chain mo. The collection would be, meron kang mga deployed na collectors, okay? And then, of course, the releasing would be still the same sa co-op pa rin, but in terms of going back to you, getting the payment for your loans, for the loans, then it's through the collectors or through the tellers. Okay? So you have to segregate the different type of members that you have. In the internal analysis, we learned how we need to profile our members para we know what kind of services we need to give to them. We seldom use this structure, but this is usually used for a supply chain, mga manufacturing. If they have different products like diapers, powder, Colgate, toothpaste, branding yan, toothpaste, and then ano pa ba, soap. So they have different supply chain and they have different customers. They use this kind of structure. Now, this is what we're used with. Okay. Top management, we have the support services, then the credit, the savings, and probably the multi-purpose or the hostel. So ito yung medyo sanay tayo, the product-based organization. So that's the terminology for this type of organization. Okay, but I'll be showing you a different structure, which is the structure of the branches, what they do. Okay, top management, and then you have your field operations. This could be your area managers. And then the central support services could be done by the head office, branch A, branch B, branch C, and then the area support group, sino yung mga employees na dinedeploy sa community. So ito rin, very similar sa mga cooperatives with branches already. Yan. Okay, so Oro Integrated has this. Meron silang mga field operations manager. And GSAC also have this, right? GSAC, meron din kayo nito. Okay. So, there are also structure naman na ganito, nag-o-overlap ang kanilang tao. Thank you, Ma'am Teresa. Ayan. So, meron tayong mga area. Sa area na yon, limited lang yung mga products na ina-offer nila. Like savings lang, they do the deposits, or probably more of information dissemination lang. Kung area 1, pwedeng satellite office lang ito. Pero because of the risk na yung kanilang tawag dito, high risk pagdating sa collection, probably they are not doing the collection in this area. So, iba rin yung products na ina-offer. Others would be, this area would be having yung product A, product B, product C, product D, all the different areas. But it's determined by the type of members that they have. No? Paano yung mga members nyo, yun yung ino-offer nyong products. So this is the product matrix organization na tinatawag. We seldom use this. Yung una pa rin, yung ikalawa kanina na pinakita ko ang ginagamit natin. Okay. So, function specialized organization is more focused with services. So, ito rin, the top management and the different services being done. Okay, so combined na yung sa atin. Kumbaga pinagsama na natin yung kaninang operations and functional. Operations and functional, pero may mga iba focused on the functions only. Now, this is our, kumbaga, generic cooperative structure. Okay. Ito yung common sa atin na ginagamit natin. We call this a hierarchical organizational structure. Yan. So, okay. So, in this structure, meron tayong mga board of directors, the audit committee, and the election committee. They are actually elected, right? Then, there are now some co-ops na walang credit committee. Kung meron mang credit committee, hindi na sila yung nagpa-process ng loan. They are more focused now with the policies and procedures. Kasi right now, ang management team natin are doing the credit functions already. So marami ng co-op walang credit committee. So the board of directors focuses on the policies and not in the implementation of the strategies. Okay? And then we have the special committees, ethics, and the treasurer and secretary. The treasurer should be different from the fund manager. Okay? So, baka ang isa sa itatanong ninyo, is it right na yung iyong fund manager will be the same as your finance manager, or your treasurer will be the same as your finance manager? For control purposes, hindi talaga dapat. Remember, our board of directors, they are voluntary. They don't receive salaries from the co-op, and our management team are salaried employees, and the hire and fire of our employees is by the general manager. Imagine if your treasurer is your finance manager, kaya ba siyang i-fire ng ating general manager? That would be impossible. Okay? Because the general manager is answerable to the board of directors. Okay, eto kasi generic siya. But depending on the size of your organization, there should be a different setup pagdating sa organizations ng co-op. So, ang isa sa na-experience namin before, kapag lumalaki na yung co-op, lalong nagiging complex yung functions and operations. You need a more sophisticated na setup ng organizations. But changing your structure from a centralized organizational structure to a disintegrated na organizational structure, mahirap na overnight siya. So it goes through a process. Ang isi-share kong next with you would be what we did with the interventions for the large cooperatives. So let me just open the organizational structure ng centralized model. But we don't, this is not required for everybody, no? Only if you feel that this will be helpful para sa inyo kung if you would be expanding your organizations. Like you need now to centralize the finance, or you need to centralize the marketing activities, or you need to centralize the decision making. Okay. So the assumption is if you are going to create a head office, yung head office mo is the highest level in your organization. They have all the competencies, and then they are the decision maker. You'll find coaches sa inyong organizations kapag ka meron kang head office. Hindi dapat baliktad na mas magagaling pa yung mga nasa branch mo kaysa sa head office. Okay, so we need our very competent people in the head office so that they can support the different branches. Now, in centralizing your organizational structure, tendency is, kumbaga, before, the decision-making is really heavy on the branch managers. Sila nagbabudget, sila nagpo-project ng kanilang targets, and then sila ang nagmamanage ng finances ng branch. Okay? But in the organizational structure wherein there's a head office and centralized na office, what we do is we have a different setup. Kumbaga, the marketing activities is coming from the top, and then si manager would be more focused on improving the portfolio of the branch. Okay, so malalesen na sa kanya ngayon yung burden of managing the finance. Lagi na lang na if kulang siya sa funding, then this manager can call on the head office for additional funding, can request for additional funding. O di naman kaya kapag kulang siya sa tao, the manager can ask the head office to provide the support for the cooperative, for the branch. Okay? So, let me just share this. Yan, probably, nakikita na ba natin yung slide? Okay, so this is the, thank you, sir. Okay, so ito yung principles. Kaya nakalagay dito draft, no? Because it may be different for your co-op kapag ka magse-centralize tayo. Ideally, one staff, one boss. Kung maraming boss ang ating mga staff, mahahati sila mahihirapan sila. So ideally, one-on-one. Then as for the scope of supervision, ang monitoring natin is 1:10 or 1:20 that can be managed, no? There will be problem in monitoring the performance of the people kung masyadong malaki yung kaniyang ina-handle. So ideally 10 people, 15, maximum 20, kaya pa yan na i-manage. Then the focus of supervision will be harder comparing large with small-sized organization. Sa head office natin, what we do is either we have divisions manager na nag-handle ng kanya-kanyang department or area manager na may kanya-kanya silang hinahandle na branch managers. So, with this kind of centralized structure, empowerment is easy for us to implement. We can empower people, less costly, and more interesting for the professionals. Now, in terms of communication, yung escalation, protocol at chain of command, mas magiging smooth kapag manageable yung number of people na hinahandle natin. Kasi what we're used with is kapag general manager ka, ang minamanage mo lahat ng tao up to the rank and file. So nangyayari, nawawalan ka ng focus. But if you distributed your authority to your supervisors, down the line, accountable sila sa people nila, then what you need to expect is pwedeng magbigay ka ng criteria in their performance evaluation na one of the criteria would be the growth and the performance of your team. Kapag lahat ng iyong empleyado nagpe-perform ng maayos, that is a reflection of good management. So you'll get a high grade in terms of your management criteria. Now, let's say one of your people have not received any training, accountable si supervisor doon. So, it can be reflected in their performance as well. So, you distribute the empowerment and then the chain of command. Inform the people who are involved. So, send information to the right people. When you have a centralized structure, ang expectation mo, yung mga supervisors mo na i-communicate ng maayos yung mga bagong policies and procedures sa kanilang mga subordinates. But if weak ang iyong supervisor, pag nag-spot visit ang iyong HR or ang iyong operations manager doon sa branch, nag-spot checking siya at nagtatatanong siya sa mga empleyado, and then they have the different concept about the policy, it means your supervisor or your manager is weak in communicating and disseminating information. So makikita mo na kagad kung sino yung magaling na manager just by looking at the people na under that person. So kung ako yung branch manager, okay sa akin kapag yung mga tao ko na po-promote going up in their position. Because it's a reflection of your leadership. Okay? The upper management should come out with a program din naman para sa ating mga managers on how they can also be promoted to their highest capacity or highest level or positions. So kapag halimbawa na po-promote ang mga tao ng managers, that's an indicator sa upper management na magaling yung iyong manager. Kapag magaling yung manager mo, mahirap humanap ng magaling na manager. Ano ngayon ang programa mo para ma-retain mo ang iyong magaling na manager? Salary is not always the answer. The managers also need recognition. So you need to come out with a program that will recognize your managers. And at the same time, si HR would have to think as well, paano naman yung mga staff would also be able to recognize your manager. Kasi sometimes, ang expectations ng mga employees, recognition should be coming from the top. But that's not it. Even the employees, the rank and file employees should be able to recognize their superior. Kaya nga yung mga malalaking companies like Convergys, meron silang system na performance management system. It's like a social parang media siya, social media siya na they comment, they give stars sa kanilang supervisors or they give demerit sa kanilang immediate supervisors. Pero ang nakakita ng mga comments, inputs, or feedback ng mga staff is only the HR department. Then the HR department processes those data. Kapag valid siya, it is already part of the evaluation. May points na nadadagdag sa manager. And then those points would be basis for the promotion of the manager. Medyo sophisticated na yon yung sinasabi kong yon. Now, as HR, paano mo naman malalaman if the rank and file, mga nasa baba, are happy with their immediate superior? So, with a centralized function or centralized organizational structure, makikita mo na distributed yung empowerment, yung authority, yung information dissemination, at saka yung accountability and responsibility ng ating mga managers. Sino sa inyo na kapag may problema sa empleyado, ang gagawin ni manager, HR, kausapin mo si ganito. The first expectation is, ang unang dapat kumausap sa rank and file na or sa subordinates nila is the manager. Saka lang i-elevate sa HR or i-inform lang si HR kapag hindi ma-handle or kapag kailangan lang na i-record or i-take note ni HR. But ang handling of people, managing the subordinates, is the responsibility of the supervisor and the immediate head in that branch. So, yung function ng HR should be distributed as well to the managers, the line managers. But the HR department should be informed para at least they have they're getting the picture, a bigger picture of the employee's performance. Kagabi, during the virtual summit, ano daw yung kaniyang empowerment message nung Unilever CHRO nila? Ano yung empowerment message para sa mga learning and development officers? The empowerment message is, this is the time of uncertainty. This is the time that people needs us. So, rise to the challenge. Napakalaki ng role ng HR ngayon in settling the employees, making them comfortable in the new normal. Because the general manager is more concerned with the operation, should have more time thinking strategic, should have more time doing strategic planning. Ngayon, it's the HR who will bridge the people and the management. So dapat siya yung mag-facilitate nun. Sino pang in-expect nating mag-facilitate na mag-bridge ng gap? No other than the HR. So, siya yung pinaka-talagang bridge. Okay. So, sa centralization is being done everywhere. Maraming financial institutions and banks ang nagpa-practice ng centralized structure. And specialization, kapag 10 or more people ang nagtatrabaho, then you can do specialization. But if there are less than 10 people, multitasking. Di ba? Pag smaller yung iyong group, smaller yung organization mo, kadalasan multitasking. Pero pagka lumalaki na ng lumalaki ang iyong organization, that's the time na nagkakaroon ng specialization. And then the interface sa process. So, relationship of the player, how the flow of function, task, accountability, and responsibility are interrelated. Nasisimplify yung process ng relationship when you do a centralized structure. Internal control is also being addressed and the flow of activities becomes smooth. So, pyramidal versus flat structure depends on the needs of your co-op. It's up to you if you will apply this. But let me share with you the different structure, no? Okay, bago ka pumunta pala sa paggagawa ng structuring, you need the help of your upper management to do the SWOT analysis. And then you need to review the files, okay, your people, the records of your people, and if you have a system, a software, HRIS, then you need to employ the help of your IT. Malaki ang roles ng IT system sa centralization kasi kapag centralized ang iyong HR and finance, dapat yung transfer of information like data, documents, dapat na ibabato kagad sa head office. Pati yung approving and disapproving of the loans, dapat nagagawa ka agad. Okay, pag small scale, ito yung structure natin. The general manager, meron tayong savings services, ito yung cash services, the loan services, and then the admin and HR. Yung audit committee and head office internal audits gives a report, kaya dotted lines yan, gives a report, but they are not controlled by the general manager in terms of their findings. So I'll give a copy of this to you para you can read through what would be the functions of each level. I'm just giving you a quick view of what would it look like kapag ka-small scale pa lang yung organization mo. Ito yung mga functions na kaya mo pang i-manage. Okay. Next, pag medium scale, nadagdagan na ang iyong levels, no? So, now the functions of GM handles also yung sa may tao ka sa savings, tao sa transaction, loan services, marketing services, admin and HR, accounting and internal audit. Now, what can you do with your marketing services? You need to tie up the marketing activities with your savings services and the loan services. Dapat dikit sila. If you will notice, nakadikit palagi ang marketing because it's servicing the operations. Okay? And then the admin and the HR and finance. Ang HR and finance, we need to separate them because HR usually are cost centers, no? Hindi sila income generating. And the finance usually manages the budget. Kaya minsan, some of the trainings in corporations na ta-traffic ni finance, least priority. Unlike with the cooperative, high priority sa atin ang education, ang training. Kaya we are very lucky kasi sagana tayo sa training sa cooperative sector. Okay? So, accounting is far from them so that there'll be accuracy and validity of the entries in the books. Okay? So, you need to consider the functions in designing your structure, and you need to consider as well the number of employees. Okay, pag large scales na, the headcount is 81 and up employees, then you might be thinking of having a COO. Your COO can manage the operations, the branch managers, pwedeng mag-focus with the branch managers, the marketing, the loan services, and the transaction. Kung may COO ka na, itong portion ng operations, mababawas na kay general manager. Kasi may mga heads na doon, and then the COO would be answerable to the CEO. So may nakafocus na on the operations. Or pwede mo namang i-decide na ikaw ang mag-focus on the operations, and then the finance, accounting, you'll find somebody na isang tao na head naman ng back-end services. You can delegate this already. Pwedeng meron kang isang admin and HR head na doon naman nagre-report ang yung finance and accounting or HR manager. Otherwise, if you have, let's say, 10 branches, so i-add mo yung 10 branches tapos hindi nakahiwalay yung iyong loan services and saving services, idagdag mo yon plus the branch, plus the transaction services, ganun kadami ang ima-manage mo tao. Okay. So centralization, what you can do is you start centralizing the HR services and the finance services. But not immediately the marketing services. Kailangan i-integrate mo siya sa mga functions ng savings and loans. Okay? And then, little by little, you can now separate yung iyong mga operations with the back-end services. So, sample transition structure. Kailangan, kung yung loan mo, isa-centralize mo yung approval ng mga loans, gagawin mo na sa head office, kailangan meron kang strong loan person na nandoon sa head office, na naiintindihan yung expert talaga siya sa process and systems. So, they will address yung loan problems. So, one person now can handle yung mga branches. Then, the savings personnel will deal with the members who are looking for the branch manager, and admin becomes centralized as well as the finance. Ito transition, unti-unti lang. Hindi ka agad na lahat ng operations isa-centralize mo na kaagad. So, that's option 1. Option 2, ang isa-centralize mo would be your marketing and savings and the loan services. You need a strong loan person as well, and then a strong savings personnel as well, para the savings department would be coming out with strategies on promoting the savings. And then sa loan services would be one personnel. Yung loan services is very similar to the credit management office, no? Or the credit management department. So you might get confused. Ito kasi transition, meaning how you will create the head office, and then papaano naman yung distribution down the line. So yung mga nandoon sa loans mo on your branch would be submitting reports to the head office, yung sa loan department, other than the branch manager. So si branch manager would also have a copy of the reports, pero ang main focus ngayon ni branch manager would be dealing with the savings and then the head of the loan department or the loan services. So just quick wrapping up. in doing an organizational structure, if you are going to centralize your OS, you need to have an understanding of the different functions. Tapos i-involve mo yung mga managers of these different departments in the planning. Kailangan may buy-in sila. Kapag walang buy-in in doing the organizational or the centralized organizational structure, wag mong i-push, wag mong ituloy. Kailangan maintindihan nila yung objective, bakit mo siya sinecentralize yung function. Okay? So, you need to clarify the roles of your branch managers. So, when you centralize kasi, yung authority level, the decision-making level, ang magiging feeling ni branch manager initially is binabawasan ako ng authority, binabawasan ako ng right to decide for the branch. Pero pagka naipaintindi mo sa kanila na hindi naman yung authority level ang mababawas sa'yo, more of yung transactions lang. Imbis na mamroblema ka about where you are going to get the funds or pagdating doon sa approval, kasi magsiset ka ngayon ng level ano yung i-approve ng branch level? Ano yung i-approve ng head office? Halimbawa, 1 million, si branch manager pa ba ang mamroblema? Or 5 million, pwedeng si head office ang mag-approve or the board of directors will approve it. So, pwede nang ipasa ni branch manager yon sa head office. So, ano yung mawawala sa kanya? But at the same time, emphasize on ano naman yung madadagdag sa kanya. Ngayon, you have more time to look for new members. You have more time to manage your branch by creating a more, more personalized na approach to your members. You can focus on the programs, not much on the transactional aspect para ma-lessen yung problem na yan doon. So you need to sandwich approach. You need to emphasize what is the benefit for the branch manager when you do the centralization. So ito, elements of the different departments should be well defined, yung job specification. Tapos yung transition, gaano katagal, paano itatry. Ang ginawa namin sa Oro Integrated, bago kami nag-centralize, meron kaming tinatawag na prototype branch. Sila lang muna yung tinest namin. And then it turned out that the prototype branch increased their asset, improved their PAR. So naging maganda yung performance ng prototype branch. Doon nagkaroon ng buy-in yung ibang branches. Kaya naman, they also went through the process of centralizing. So yung hiring ng people, yung finance, yung management ng capital, at saka yung sa marketing strategies, yun yung na-centralize namin in the Oro Integrated. As well as yung sa projection ng target, kasi nagkaroon na ng data, no? We benchmark it na on the performance. And then, the decision for the targets is now not left on the branch manager, but it's already, combined effort of the head office and the branch manager. So, nagkaroon ngayon ng free communication or nagkaroon ngayon ng stronger communication. Okay? So, make sure then that you are also technologically supported. Okay? So, do you have any questions about the centralized structure? Okay. So, we have here a question. Sabi ni Sir Nestor, how should we relate OS to job evaluation? Which comes first? Okay, so which comes first actually is the job evaluation. Okay, so pagka sinabi mong job evaluation, okay, I hope you have a copy of this, no? Ayan. This is a handbook that we shared with the co-ops. Ang job evaluation is you determine the values of the position. Gaano ka-risky yung position kapag ka nawala sila. Okay? So, is it a leadership position? Yun yung job evaluation. Now, kapag ka magdi-design ka ng organizational structure, the first step would be to do a job evaluation. Kasi in the organizational structure, kapag ka hierarchical yan, you always place the highest decision or the highest position in the top, no? So nangyayari, kapag ka sa decision maker, nanggagaling sa taas. Now, you will know the level of the decision making doon sa position or doon sa specific function. Should it be considered na nandun siya sa supervisory or nandun siya sa managerial? There are some positions na wala silang tao. Pero the technical expertise is that they manage the risk of yung sa members, the financial risk, and then the process and system risk. Isang example ko dito is the IT position. The IT is a specialized position. Pero ano ang access ni IT? Financial data. May access siya. Tapos, data of the members, the portfolio, may access siya. High risk. So, will you consider your IT as down the line sa rank and file? Or will you consider it as a manager position? Okay? So, job evaluation is essential for you to know the value of the position, tapos ma-plot mo na siya ngayon sa organizational structure. I hope I'm able to answer your question, Sir Nestor, or do you want to add more? Hello? Are you still with me? Was I able to answer your question? Sir Nestor, are you there? So, are you following? May question ba tayo? May tanong pa ba ang mga kasama? So, baka baka wala nang tanong. Okay. So, I hope I was able to answer, Sir Nestor, no? Una yung ating job evaluation because we need to know the value of the position. Okay, so I'll proceed with our presentation. Ito, may question pa ulit si Ma'am Rebecca. Okay, so her question is, how about po kung aside from branch ay meron din pong satellite office? Okay, my question is, who is hosting the satellite office? Okay, kasi merong mga satellite office hosted by the branch. So, ang nangyayari, under the branch, ang structure niya is reporting sa satellite office on the branch manager. But if the satellite office doesn't have any host branch at head office ang nag-create sa kanya, then the satellite office will be reporting doon sa head office. Kung main office, Ma'am Rebecca, ang kanyang host, then yung satellite office will be answerable doon sa main office. Ang magmamanagement sa satellite office would be the main office. Until such time na mag-evolve na si satellite. Kapag kasi satellite can stand on its own, at lalagyan nyo na siya ng manager, at dadagdagan nyo na yung tao and turn it into a branch, then tatanggalin mo na siya under the main office. Okay? So, was I able to answer, Ma'am Rebecca? Okay, sige. Okay, let's continue with my presentation. Medyo ilan na lang ito. So, we presented yung different type of organizational structure. Merong member-centric, merong product-centric, merong area focused, merong area product, matrix, saka function specialized. What we showed you sa co-op, what we practice is function specialized. And sometimes we also infuse the area-centric na approach if it's a large cooperative. Okay? So, punta na tayo sa Audi. There are actually 7 elements of organizational development. So first part is direction setting, okay, where you are going to bring your co-op. Next would be competency and capability building. This is the skills required for the different job levels. Kaya you really need to do the job evaluation. Culture nurturance is what kind of environment and atmosphere you want to have, what kind of culture ang gusto mong i-develop sa co-op mo. And then fourth would be install systems, processes, and procedures. This is the manualization and the systems development. And then the evaluation, if your systems, approaches, and strategies are aligned with the mission, vision. And then lastly would be how you will raise the morale of the organization and guide your people properly. So isa-isahin natin. What are the details of this? Okay. So first is the direction setting. Ano yung mga guide for the strategist? So when I say the strategist, it's the OD or the organizational designer, no? First is clarify the vision, define the goals, and then set performance milestones or indicator of success. So, easy to understand naman po ito. Ano po? Kailangan lang clear across the organization yung ating mission, vision, and it should be uniform. The second step is the competency building and capability building. So, what you will need to do is you have to mobilize your people with the right sets of skills. Technical skills ba yan? Managerial? And then these skills should be equated with what is expected of them. Okay? Then, if there is gap, you have to come out with programs to build their capabilities and competencies. So now, if you focus on this part, ano ang product nito? Ang product nito is the training plan. If you have the training plan for the career for each position, then the next would be you have the career pathing plan. After the career pathing plan, you develop them into leaders, you determine the leadership post. Now, you come out with the succession program plan. Okay? So, yung tatlong yon, magkaka-connecta po yung mga yan. So, you start with the training plan, and then you focus on the career of your employees, what would be your plan for them, and then those for your managers is focus more on the succession program. And then enable the organization to address both in short and long-term competency and capacity requirements. So, training plan is short-term, career pathing plan is long-term, and then succession plan is also long-term. Tinatanong ako ng iba, how soon do you need to come out with a succession program? At least meron kang 5 years to 10 years na didetermine mo na who will be replacing the leadership position. Tapos ginugroom mo na siya. Ang risk lang is if you invested so much money training yung successor mo and then pirate siya or kaya ay nakuha siya ng ibang kumpanya, yun yung masakit para sa atin. But somehow, you know the commitment of your people, sino talaga yung magstay sa co-op, and then you invest more on these people who have commitment for your cooperative. Okay, so next is culture nurturance. Isa ito sa pinakamahirap, yung culture nurturance. Kasi sometimes we say that the leader dictates the culture of the organization. I don't totally agree with it, no? Usually, the culture molds the leader. It molds the leader. Yes, first, kung sino yung founder, sino yung, ano yung values and principles ng founder, yun yung na-i-ingrained doon sa organization. When they started small, madali pa ma-create yung culture. But when you grow now, kailangan mas-solidify yung values and principles ng cooperative para yung culture na mismo ang magmo-mold ngayon sa next leaders, sa next generation. So set the tone and rules of engagement of your people, and then define the behavior or the norms and values, cultivate the good habits, customs, and morals, and institutional, the rituals, the reinforcement, the rights, and behavior. When you say rights, rituals, yung celebration ito. You commend people who did good job. You celebrate small success ng inyong organization, and you involve your employees to be part of this celebration. So you understand, you praise, inspire, and influence your people. Just to cite an example in terms of culture nurturance. I had an experience before. This is a very large co-op, very stable co-op. So they hired a general manager coming from the bank. Okay? So the board of directors decided that they will hire somebody coming from the bank to become the general manager. That GM lasted only for 6 months. Meron kasi silang internal employee who refused to apply for the position kasi ang feeling niya, she should be promoted for the position. Hindi niya na kailangang applyan yung position. So ano yung message nito? Ang message niya is the general manager wants acknowledgement, the assistant general manager wants an acknowledgement that she is competent and that she has the trust of the higher ups to run the cooperative. So when they place the AGM, ang ginawa ngayon ng board of directors, they come out with a promotion policy. So when they came out with the promotion policy, there's no need for that AGM to apply for the position. Tinanong nila, will you be willing to accept the position of the GM, and we will groom you if we see na kulang ka sa skills and competency, but we see your commitment to the co-op, we will groom you to be fit for the position of the general manager. Then that AGM accepted the position. To tell you, the co-op now is very strong, and they are really, kumbaga, one of the biggest co-op in Mindanao. So, I'll not disclose kasi it's a little bit private now. Pero maybe nahahagingan nyo na feel nyo na kung sino yung tinutukoy ko. If you are really active in the movement. Okay, so fourth is install systems, processes, and procedures. Okay, so ano yung trabaho natin as OD? We need to clearly define ano yung mga functions kada position. So with the job evaluation, you come out with the job description and job analysis, no? So isa yun sa mga tools or isa yun sa mga steps that we need to conduct in setting up the organizational structure. So write it down and disseminate it and implement it, monitor if they are complying. Pagka hindi pareho ang piniperform na functions ng employees with what is described in the job description, alin ang babaguhin? Is it the functions of the employee or is it the content of the job description? So it depends siguro. So it depends. So but you'll be able to determine it when you do a job evaluation. Then issue formal policies and procedures. make sure that everybody in the organization has a copy of the policies and procedures, or they have access to the policies and procedures manual. Okay? Sa organization namin dati, sa 2,000 kasi yung employees ng Servisyo Filipino, hindi bawat isang empleyado may copy ng employees handbook. Ang ginawa namin, kada unit, kada department, merong manual para anytime they can pull out the manual. But everybody in the organizations were given an orientation about the employees policy. So we can do the same if we cannot issue. Pero ngayon madali na eh. Kasi employees handbook can be issued electronically, no? Hindi na magastos sa printing. Okay. Make sure it is disseminated to all your people. Okay. Fifth step or fifth element is ensure that the vision, strategy of the organization is fitted to your employees or to your people. Usually, kapag halimbawa hindi fit yung personality ng isang employee on the culture of the organization, you cannot expect them to stay long in the organization, in the cooperative. Lalo na yung mga medyo ambitious, who loves traveling, and hindi grounded, medyo hindi sila magstay long. But there are those naman din that through recruitment, madidetermine mo na kagad if they are fit doon sa ating organization. So, using your onboarding program, at least ma-build mo yung culture or ma-integrate mo yung isang tao, isang empleyado, doon sa kultura ng iyong kooperatiba. So, first, dapat sila, they accept your mission vision, they get integrated with your vision mission objectives, and then they practice the values and the principles of the co-op. And then they also kumbaga, they can express their concerns to the management and align yung ating management and our rank and file in terms of achieving the objectives, the vision, and the mission of the cooperative. So, dapat yung mga yan congruent. Okay, number 6. So, the number 6 would be raise the morale of the organization. It's easy. Ang malalaman mo kagad kung maganda ang moral ng organization kapag nagpe-perform ng maganda. Pero pagka halimbawa, nagsasuffer ang iyong co-op and then nakita mo bumagsak yung performance ng iyong mga empleyado, it means medyo low moral yung mga employees natin. But if they have high morale, nagre-reflect yun sa trabaho nila. So, how can you increase the morale of your organization? Just following the principles, seeing the principles in practice, nakaka-raise na siya ng morale. Kanina, shinare ni Ma'am Annabel na with the job rotation, they see their future with the co-op. Nagkakaroon sila ng mataas na morale. They stay for good. And then, celebrate small successes, no? Make sure that all your staff are members or are part of your ship. Okay, so kapag ka na-reach ng co-op yung success niya, may na-meet na objectives, then you have to share that success, the feeling of being happy, of joyful sa ating mga employees because they are part of the achieving that objective. So, Makis, ayan, nakasulat na dyan. Recognize your people, foster high participation from your people. Yan. Make them feel as winners and then have a positivity sa about how they look into the cooperatives and how they take part in the success of the cooperatives. Maintain transparency and give them responsibilities kasi yung feeling of being responsible and accountable is also the determinant of the level of the success, personal success and professional success of the employees. Kumbaga, tell me, I will know, but involve me, then I will participate and I will work for it. So yun yung commitment ngayon ng employees natin. Number 7, last but not the least, would be guide your people properly. You need to develop your managers as coaches and mentors. So come out with programs that will enhance your leaders as well as create new leaders in your organization. So management training program, do you have it in your co-op? And then do you have personal growth space for your employees? Dati, we have like a club, photographers club, para sa mga employees namin. We have Zumba sessions. So you be creative. What will make them feel comfortable and being part of the family sa iyong co-op. Okay? Then know their dreams. Kasi if you can help them achieve their dreams, no, yung desires nila in growth, no, kung ano yung maging direction nila, and you can provide yung guide and map for them to achieve their dreams, they will stay. So yun nga, career path and succession program for your employees. And then alam nyo yung communication, the way you communicate with your people. Ayoko talaga nung sa writing lang and chat lang, but this is the communication venue ng ating new normal ngayon. But yung, alam mo, talking to them, verbal communication, mas maganda kasi there's this tone. Tapos, iba yung, nakikita nila yung iyong sincerity when you talk to them. Unlike ng kapag ka sa chat, nagkakaroon ng ibang interpretation. So, yun yung sa aking napapansin. Let us maintain communication with our people. Okay? So, do you have question on this part? Siguro may mga questions. Entertain natin yung question here. How about movement in the organization without guidelines or documents? Demoralizing. Paul. Honestly, no, if we are clear with the criteria for the promotions, no, yung movement natin, it's in the policies, it's documented yung criteria. Hindi maki-question ng mga ibang employees yung promotion ng isang empleyado. If they see one person na ang baba-baba ng mga performance evaluation niya, tapos na-promote pa rin siya, for what reason? Diba? Itatanong ngayon ng mga empleyado natin, for what reason? But if they meet the criteria for the promotion, then hindi na, isang way yon to protect yung credibility ng management natin. Okay, so nangyayari kasi movement first, then documents later. Oh no. Ayan. Okay, so that's why we have this performance management system. Kasama sa discussion yung mag-uusap si immediate head at saka si employee ng bakit i-recommend kita para ma-promote because this is your performance. Bakit di kita i-recommend? Kasi kulang ka pa dito. Now, pagka due for promotion ka, pwedeng informal document muna. There is a letter, no? Email or letter na signed by the employee. Kasi sometimes the upper ups would have to sign the paper, diba? And it takes time pag minsan pagpapapirmahan natin. Pero at least merong informal letter coming from your immediate head na indicating your promotion. I hope I'm able to answer your question, Sir Paul, no? Sir Jimmy, most employees stay longer in the company, not because of the company, but because of their boss. My comment here, Sir Jimmy, is we're in the co-op sector. Ang dapat na buy-in ng ating mga empleyado is that they believe the organization. You're a very good leader kapag ka sila mismo na-guide mo to love the cooperative in general. Ngayon, mag-groom ka ng successor mo. Pagka nag-groom ka ng successor mo, dapat ma-transfer mo yung trust ng mga employees doon sa successor mo. Para pag ikaw nag-retire, hindi sila magre-resign. Since ang loyalty ng mga employees is in the co-op, kahit mawala ka, they will not resign. they know they have a very important role in the co-op, na mahalaga sila sa co-op at hindi kailangan na umalis sila dahil nawala yung immediate head nila. No? So you need to transfer that loyalty. Hindi dapat sa iyo ang loyalty ng mga staff. Dapat nandoon sa organization. For me, that's my opinion. Would you like to share, Sir Jimmy? Medyo, this is a good, good input, Sir Jimmy, no? Many employees stay longer because of their boss. Even, even Maxwell and even Stephen Covey say, at saka sino pa yung isa? Leadership guru, Stephen Covey and Maxwell. They say many resign because of their boss. Many people stay because of the boss. Pero sa akin, for me, since we are in the cooperative, this is a movement, this is a helping organization, dapat mas may buy-in sila sa kooperatiba. Okay. Thank you po, Sir Jimmy. Okay, so Ma'am Emily, OS concern, organizational concern. How about co-op with allied services? Where and what is their best position in the OS? Allied services such as grocery and polyclinic. Usually, kung maliit lang naman yung allied services, it's katabi siya ng operations, under siya ng operations. But usually, we ask, kung halimbawa malaki na yung na-generate na income ng allied services, we ask the people, the management to separate now the activities of the allied services. Para wag magmi-mix yung capital ng allied services doon sa capital ng credit and savings. Dapat magkahiwalay yan. Or if hindi magkahiwalay ng organizations, at least yung books nila magkahiwalay. Para makita mo clearly kung talaga bang kumikita or nagge-generate yung iyong allied services separate from the credit and savings. Para mas clear sa'yo yon. But usually, kadikit siya sa operations. Okay. Ma'am Emily, was I able to answer your question? Thank you po. Okay. So, time check, it's 12. And let me check lang our PowerPoint if there's still remaining I think for this session, for today's session is, okay, so case study is for Oro Integrated. Okay, so do you have any other more questions? Wala tayong questions for, wala na tayong ibang questions with regards to the theories, the principles, and the strategies in doing organizational design. Wala na po. Okay, so tomorrow, you have one case study, which is yung, dalawa siya actually na write-up. Case studies, the Mondragon Cooperative. Since organizational structure and development yung topic natin, I want you to review the organizational structure of Mondragon, go through their programs, paano nila na-develop yung kanilang mga subsidiaries, yung ibang mga organizations, what is the baseline, and then the question would be, how did they institutionalize their governance? So, also, tomorrow then, if you still have time, please read the Oro Integrated case. Nasa Canvas platform po siya. And for those who have no access to Canvas, ipapa-email ko ito kay Raquel. Your guide question would be, ano yung mga challenges na na-encounter ng Oro? So wala tayong grouping sa Oro. This is just a case study na isi-share ko sa inyo. And then, how were they able to manage yung mga challenges? And then, ano ba yung right thing to do? And ano ba yung approach in dealing with their problems? So, this is the application. And tapos, doon sa Mondragon, after you read it, discuss with your group, or later on, tomorrow, we'll have a 15 minutes meeting with your group para sa presentation. But we'll first discuss tong sa Oro. Yung sa Oro kasi is, I already have a template to explain what they went through, but I need you to read it para alam nyo naman kung ano yung mga ikinikwento ko sa situation ng Oro Integrated. I-share ko sa inyo because this one is a best practice, a lot of learning from this co-op. Okay? And then also, after that, after the Oro, skip ko lang. I'll be also sharing with you yung new structure, new organizational structure. Yan. Okay. Yung new organizational structure, may bagong design, may bagong model na ang nag-push nito is because of the COVID-19. And then naka-align siya sa Generation Z and we need to prepare for it. Para as OD, as HR, alam natin paano natin ngayon i-handle or i-develop yung programs natin for our organization. Okay? So, do you have any question? May mga tanong pa po ba tayo? Okay, so may announcements, Sir Paul. Group 1, can we create FB group for discussion of case study? Okay lang ba ito sa inyo? Ayan. So, group 1 will create an FB group, chat group. Sige. Siguro si Sir Paul magkikreate ng FB group. Can we share now, Raquel? Are you there? Or William?
Yes, ma'am. Ano po yun?
Can we share now the groupings sa kanila?
Okay po. Sige po, ma'am.
Ayan. So, group 1 will create an FB group. So, group 2, group 3, dalawang groups lang po tayo. Group 2 and group 3. Then, if you want to have an FB group. Sir Nestor asked, can we have a copy of all your presentations? Yes, sir. I will share the presentation. I-email po ni Raquel and i-upload ko rin sa Canvas platform. Kasama ba, Raquel, si Sir Nestor sa Canvas?
Hindi po, ma'am. Pero kanina, yung sinend ko po, yung pangkalahatan, nasend ko po sa kanya.
Okay,
Yung link.
sige. Okay, sige. So, I will email Sir Nestor. Ipapa-email ko yung PDF copy nitong presentations ko. The first part. Okay, para ma-review nyo na rin as you go through the case studies. Okay, salamat. Okay, so thank you for being participative. Salamat sa lahat ng participants. Gamay na gamay nyo na ang ating way of teaching ngayon na through virtual. Ayan. Can we have a group picture first? Ayan, kasi kompleto pa tayo. Baka bukas hindi na tayo kompleto. Pero sayang, pag hindi kayo dumating bukas, mamimiss nyo yung bagong model or structure. This is now the trend. Ayan, okay. So, we'll have a group picture. Okay, ready? Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, another one. Sige. Sila Sir Ronnie, saka sila Sir Arnold. Wala. Sige, okay lang. Siguro mahina ang kanilang data. Okay, ready? Okay. Ano ba ngayon? Peace sign? Peace sign? Or love sign? Peace sign. Okay, ready? Love sign, love sign. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you everyone. Have a happy lunch. Okay, so
Thank you, Ma'am Rose.
salamat
Thank you,
po.
Ma'am Rose.
Lunchtime. Thank you, Ma'am Rose.
Ingat po tayo. Salamat.
Thank you po.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Salamat po. Ayan. Sige.
Thank you po, Ma'am Rose. Thank you, Ma'am
Welcome
Rose.
po, sir. Okay, so ayan, Paul shared yung FB account, group 1, you can add Paul. So the rest, pwede rin kayo mag-create. Sige, salamat!